Well, after a fun-filled weekend celebrating dads, Mike and I are back to the bullpen, and we're going to talk about the Astros. They are walking into victories. Lance McCullers is walking into injuries, and we've got some questions going forward of who is this team and what is going to be their strength. Let's get into it right now.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, man, I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat a low in the way, you can't hit it. You know you want to start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walk it back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen, oh yeah.
Hey, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Back to the Bullpen. You know me, I'm H-Town Wheelhouse. You know where to find me on all the socials with Wheelhouse Media Company production here, Back to the Bullpen. You can find us on iHeartRadio, on Instagram, on X, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. Now, we've got a Wheelhouse Media Company page, and we have a Wheelhouse Media Company shorts channel that you can go check out, and it's all shorts all the time. So I guess it's perfect because the Texas heat, nobody wants to wear pants in this weather. But Mike Stanton, tell us where they can find you, sir.
Yeah, there's only one place, and that's on X, formerly known as Twitter. And that would be Mike Stanton 29, the old 2-9er.
That's right. You know, for every time you say the artist formerly known as, I can't get the picture of Prince out of my head. You know, I mean, maybe I'm dating myself a little bit. But, Mike, we had some interesting news, and we're going to get to the walk-off wins. We're going to get to the 5-game win streak. And one of the things that you and I talked about before the show we wanted to mention was Lance McCullers Jr., who really has been scrutinized by the fan base, been ridiculed, criticized. And, you know, it's not like Lance has tried to stay on the IL. You, as a former pitcher of 19 years, knows better than just about, I guess, anybody I know, how frustrating it is if you get injured or when you see a teammate injured or a guy like Lance that just has that extra motor that really wants to contribute. Mm-hmm. He's going well. He kind of has a little bump in the road, and then boom, 15-day IL, saying that he has a twist. He twisted his ankle or something. We don't know what happened. I mean, was it an injury? Was it in the weight room? What's going on here? But Mike, what are your thoughts with this news of Lance McCullers Jr. today? And I know you were talking to some local beat writers about it as well.
Yeah, it was when I first heard it. Actually, I think I read it on X, and it was like, oh no, because what's the first thing comes to mind is that the arm let go again. Then it came out that we think it's an ankle injury. We don't know how it happened. We also don't know any kind of time frame in which he will return. So they put him on the IL retroactive back to last Friday. That's when he pitched. And that's all the information we have. We also know that the Astros are all usually very tight-lipped about these type situations. That's come back and bit them in the past, but you know, it's just the way the organization is. Not sure if Lance is on the trip. And so we really can't ask him if, exactly what happened unless he is on the trip. But I was talking with Chandler Rome prior to, it was earlier today. It was mid-afternoon here. So it was early afternoon there in California. So he really didn't have much information, and he really didn't know if Lance was on the trip or not. So we'll have to just wait and see. But the information we've gotten has been a little sparse. I mean, silver lining, at least it's not an arm. You know, at least it's not his elbow, which that is what he's spent the last 2.5 years on the IL with, is the elbow issues, you know, surgeries, all that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you what, he has been good. Last time out, the start was, you know, extremely mediocre, but the 3 or 4 starts prior to that, he actually pitched very, very well. And, you know, I think that you yet again got excited about seeing Lance McCullers Jr. on the mound for the Houston Astros. Hopefully this isn't a long-term thing. Hopefully he can get his legs back underneath him and get back on the mound, because the Astros need him.
Yeah, they do. They need pretty much anybody to be healthy at this point.
Right?
And I'll give a full injury update of all the players that are injured.
And it is a list.
Quite a list. And it's not just guys in the majors, it's guys in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
But hey, a little update on Mr. Forrest Whitley. He went to Tampa. And what do you know? He went in, had a clean inning, was successful today. I want nothing but the best for this kid.
Sure.
And it says on a tweet, says Forrest Whitley ramped up his cutter usage today in his first appearance with the Rays. The stuff is still great, and a usage change could really help his production. What do the Rays do? They're kind of like a pitching lab, right?
Well, they are the premier organization over the last decade and a half of taking retreads and turning them into something. Right. Taking guys that maybe minor league arms that have, one thing going for them, and then all of a sudden they're a dominant big league reliever. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're known for this type of situation.
Yeah.
And, so you look back, because the Astros are kind of known for it too, but not nearly as long as the Tampa Bay Rays have been known for this. Go, well, why didn't the Astros try that? Well, you don't know that the Astros didn't. And the one thing in a situation like this that is kind of, what am I trying to say? That's kind of an unknown is, well, Forrest Whitley's brain, because when you get released, when you go through waivers and you get released, it's a gut check. All of a sudden you're looking at yourself in the mirror. You're asking yourself, can I really do this? I mean, everything Forrest has been through. Do you think there's ever a time that he's questioning his ability, questioning his desire to want to be on a big league mound? Absolutely. Probably daily, maybe even more often than that, especially as the injuries built up, as the lack of performance built up. And what the Rays do is they find that one thing. They say, okay, this is a pitch that we think that if you throw more of, you're going to get more consistent. You're going to get more guys out. And it looks like, at least with the first outing, that's the cutter.
Yeah. And, as much as the Astros are known for what they've done, it just seems like someone goes to the Rays and they shine. But look, I wish Forrest all the best.
And listen, it's one outing. It's one outing. Had he thrown any great, really good innings for the Astros? Sure, he did.
But a player like that needs that one inning, right?
Well, the one thing that I think that was always a question mark with Forrest was his. And listen, I've got no inside information. This is just my own outside view and rumors that I've heard. Was the mental toughness? Was he a guy that could, just bear down and fight his way through everything? And I'm not saying he didn't have the mental toughness. I'm just saying that there were rumors out there over the years that he might not have been the mentally toughest player on the planet. And you get at that a lot when you have guys coming out of high school.
Yeah, that. And when it seems like one punch after the other, it's
that
like
can get anybody's confidence.
Yeah,
and not
exactly.
Down.
Most guys don't have a jaw like Evander Holyfield. You know what I'm saying? Mentally,
right.
And baseball is predicated on failure. Baseball's foundation is failing more than you succeed.
Oh yeah,
in a lot of the game. And so anyways, I don't want to, stop on that too much, but I just wanted to say that because I know I had gotten to know Forrest a little bit, gotten to know some people in his circle and just know how hard the kid's grinded. And
right.
I really hope that he has all the success there.
And I'll tell you this. I think Astros fans out there need to make sure that, and they need to do the same thing. They need to wish this young man, because he has been through a lot in his career.
Yes.
Okay. That you wish him the best. Hopefully he becomes a bona fide big leaguer. I would love to see him get back in a rotation, because that's where he was supposed to be.
Yes.
And there will always be Astros fans out there, if he does succeed, they go, well, why couldn't you do that? Why Astros? Why couldn't you figure out what was going? Listen, it's just not that easy. It's not something that, because I'm guarantee you the Astros tried everything to get him healthy, get him on the mound, and get him consistent, and it just didn't happen. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before the maturity, the maturation process really, speeds up, and
yes,
you have to figure out you listen, I either got to do my business or I got to get off of it. And, hopefully Forrest can figure that out and, get into the big leagues and have a real long big league career starting from here.
Yeah, exactly. And just to kind of wrap this up, I think not necessarily the hitter version, but because it was early on in his career. But I remember JD Martinez when he was here. He tells a story. I went to the hitting coach and said, I figured it out. And they're like, see ya. And his career after that was, you know what? I'm going to prove them wrong.
And the crazy thing was that was AJ Hinch and company. That was his coaching staff. They did not want to let him go because they had seen it all spring training. That was a Jeff Luhnow move. And Jeff Luhnow's statement was, I cannot pay him that kind of money and be a minor league player. And so they cut him loose.
Oh, there's the other part of the story.
I don't know if he if he was an all-star that year. He was definitely an all-star the next year. And AJ Hinch and all the coaching staff was like, no, we can't let go of him. This dude has figured something out. He has fixed something. And I'll tell you what, you want to talk about a long big league career. JD Martinez was very good for a long time.
Yeah, he's so good that even Astros fans are like, hey, I know JD's not on a diamond, but can we get him to come in? But hey, talking about starting your career off in a really cool way, Cam Smith hit the scene really fast.
Yeah.
Expectations through the roof. And so you almost felt like, gosh, is this kid's only option to fail? Like we're putting so much on this kid, and almost, and I believe it was to the calendar day, 365 days prior to his first career ever walk-off hit, he was playing in a game for Florida State in the College World Series.
That's right.
Mike, that is what you call making your big league dreams come true.
No doubt. And I've always said, I've said it countless times, a dirty word in baseball is expectations. And that is exactly what Cam had on him as a Cub. And then he turns around, he immediately becomes a top prospect for the Astros and then makes the opening day roster. We talked about this at a podcast at the beginning of the season, that there is pressure just making the roster. And then the Astros turn around and making the starting right fielder. I mean, there's things
and
that we don't know.
Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, right. And there's some things we don't know. We don't know behind the scenes. We don't know the conversations that are had. We don't know how he's reacting to his trials and tribulations of being a big leaguer, being a young big leaguer, being the top prospect, all that kind of stuff. But he has handled it pretty well. I also think the Astros have handled it remarkably well. They didn't just throw him out there and either let him, float or sink or float. They kind of tried to, even though he was opening day, and I think they did that more for PR than anything else. I think that the Astros have done a nice job of easing him into the expectations instead of just throwing him out there and saying, all right, right field is yours. We're going to give you 300 at-bats and we're going to see where you are after that. No, they gave him days off. They've kind of mixed and matched with the pitchers that he's facing. And I thought that the Astros have done a nice job of not just hanging him out to dry. You're either a big leaguer or you're not. Astros did a nice job of protecting him.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of the College World Series, did you see what happened? The Murray State Arkansas game today? I think his kid's name was Alex Wood. Threw a no-hitter.
It was a no-hitter, and he was one hit batter away from a perfect game.
That's right. And that was in the 8th inning. He had a hitter with a curveball, and on top of that, dude struck out 19 strikeouts.
Wow, that's
first no-hitter in College World Series since I think 1960, and I don't know if they've had anybody strike out 19 before.
Yeah, that 19 strikeout performance was a Doc Gooden, a Roger Clemens, a Kerry Wood. You were at Kerry Wood when, Mark Pryor, all those guys who came up, and those poor guys.
I can tell you a story about Kerry Wood. Kerry Wood, when he struck out 20, start off with, he knew he had a lot of strikeouts. And I remember I was still playing at the time. I can't remember what year it was, but I was in the heart of my career. And at that time, ESPN every night, Baseball Tonight every night, checking on what's going around the league. And I see this kid walk off the mound, and it's like he's got no expression on his face, and it's like, no big deal. And the catcher comes out and big hug, and everybody's making this big deal. And I heard an interview recently the last couple of years from Kerry, and that always kind of pissed me off. I'm like, dude, the game's not that freaking easy. The problem is he had no idea what he had done. He didn't know what the record was. He didn't know how many strikeouts he had. He knew he struck out a lot of guys. And by the way, that game arguably is the best game we have ever seen pitched in Major League Baseball. There was one base hit. It was a swinging bunt down the left field line or down the third base line. That was it. There was no other hard contact, and he struck out 20 that day. And
it was against the Astros.
It was.
And it was actually, the date was May 6th, 1998.
There you go.
I had just graduated college.
I remember watching that, the highlights of it, and him walking off, and I'm like, man, you're an ass. Dude, I understand you. I understand you want to act like you've done it before. The thing was, he hadn't done it before, and he didn't even know what he had done.
Wow!
So
that's
I had to make a at least in my own mind make an apology to Kerry Wood. Not that he really cares, but yeah, he had no idea what he had done.
But for baseball and baseball mentality, that's really almost where you gotta be sometimes.
That's
because
the old school mentality. That's not the mentality of today's play.
Right. Because and that's the thing, and I think that maybe keeps some milestones from being reached. And one of the things I remember Justin Verlander telling me, and actually, it was really cool one time. I was doing a little interview with Ben Verlander from Fox Sports, for Locked On. And it was at the World Series. It was outside the stadium, and Ben's, his mom and dad happened to be there, and he was like, "Hey, mom and dad, this is Brett." He did, so we introduced each other. He goes, "Hey, Brett's a history teacher." So his dad loved history. His mom was a teacher, and I was like, "Can I ask you a question about Justin?" She goes, "Yeah," and I said, "What was it about Justin's career that you think got him to the place he is?" And she said he had a coach when he was 12 that told him, you never get too high, you never get too low. And what's funny? I've heard you say those same words. And so
you got to be
mentality that you
don't want to be on the roller coaster. You don't want to be on the roller coaster. And it's kind of an old school mentality, when I came into the league, the whole idea was, you act like you've done it before. You don't run off the mound. There's no rah-rah. You just act like it
so
was.
You didn't put a sword in your belt after you struck the guy out, Mike?
This generation that we're in right now with the bat flips and all the look at me, hey, you know what? Whatever. I've come to this conclusion. I've come to this place kicking and screaming. But even the last generation before this one there was still a lot of flamboyancy that wasn't my thing. That's fine. To each their own. But yeah, when you came up, if you were a rookie, you were to be seen and not heard. And that was just the mentality coming from the veteran players at the time.
Oh no. And, I can imagine, just story after story that I've heard of guys like, Nolan Ryan, if you dug in the plate. And I don't know if have I shared with you the story that we were told by Terry Poole about Lenny Dykstra.
I don't know.
Okay. So Lenny Dykstra hits a home run in the Astrodome.
He hit a home run or the Phillies.
He was with the Phillies.
Okay.
So he hits a home run in the Astrodome. Nolan was pitching the next night, and Terry Poole said he was in the dugout. Dykstra hits a home run and slow walk, like doesn't really
off of Nolan.
No,
okay,
off of the pitch of the day before. Okay,
gotcha.
He basically pimps his home run back then how they used to do it. It wasn't a full bat flip, but he jogged and he took his time and he showboated. And Nolan said, "That bullshit's not happening tomorrow." The very first pitch, Nolan put a 98-mile-an-hour fastball in his rib cage. And he said he dropped Lenny. Lenny got up and acted like he was going to go towards the mound, and Nolan took 1/2 step. Dykstra did this and went to first base. I mean, that is...
He didn't pull a Robin Ventura?
Right. Yeah. He didn't. Yeah. And then, the old joke is Robin Ventura is the only guy to get 6 hits off of Nolan Ryan in one game. So, but we got another walk-off win to talk about because it was on Father's Day. Mauricio Dubon, it was his first Father's Day. And by the way, I'll tell you publicly, I get to say it, happy Father's Day. I hope it was a good weekend for you, sir.
Happy belated Father's Day to everyone out there. Hope everyone had a wonderful wet Father's Day, wet weekend for us here in Houston. But
see, we did it today, Mike, because I outsmarted Topgolf. They tried to rook me into paying $100 and something for 2 hours in a bay. I paid $36.78 today for 90 minutes.
Believe it.
So my dad, my son, and I, we all went and we had a blast. And man, my dad hadn't played. I didn't know how long he hadn't played. And after his first game, he warmed up, and for 75, he can still hit a golf ball pretty well. So that was fun. But Mauricio Dubon walk off, and he said, and I chronicled this on my other show because he was reading scripture before. He's a believer. Isaiah 6:8, where Isaiah says, "Here I am, send me." And the Lord says, "Who will go?" And he said he looked at Jordan in the dugout before it was tied. He said, "If we tie this up, Jordan, I'm going to win the game today."
There you go. You gotta love the confidence.
And I love
Jordan probably did. Jordan probably gave him a big old eye roll because those two are at each other all the time. The best of friends. And listen, the walk-offs are awesome. That's 2 in a row. I think 2 in a row.
Yes, it was 2 in a row, yeah.
And, but what is the one stat that I keep bringing up? And that's the lack of Astros offense.
Exactly.
And, they win 80% of the games that they score 4 runs. I mean, it's incredible how well they play when they score 4 runs. They've actually got quite a few wins when they don't score 4 runs, 3 or fewer. But, the question is this sustainable? I'm not going to say it's not, because they've done it to this point.
Right.
They still getting the injury bug with Lance McCullers Jr. now going down. We don't know for how long. Bottom line is it's similar to what they did last year. Last year they lose 60% of their rotation in 2 days, not even 3 days. Right. And that was right in the middle of their winning streak and getting back to first place. So I'm not going to say this isn't sustainable, but man, is this going to be a hard second half if they don't get some help somewhere?
Well, and right now, I mean, they are playing in a very unfamiliar ballpark in Sacramento. Every game is in the evening because the sweltering heat apparently in Sacramento is triple digits at this point. Yeah. I was shocked to even hear that Jeff Blum hadn't even played in that stadium. He was like, "I've literally never been to Sacramento." And so it's 1-1 right now. The Astros have 7 hits on the 1 solo shot by Altuve. So we're hoping that they can get that done. But right now, let's look at these injury updates, and I'm going to put a little injury report for us to look at. So if you're listening,
back to the bullpen injury report.
That's right. Spencer Arrighetti is currently going through flat ground throwing progression. He will report to the Astros facility in Florida later this week. JP France threw a live BP on Friday in Florida. Remember, he had the right shoulder surgery, tossing 20 pitches in that outing. This marked his second live BP. And this is actually I believe it's on the media notes, but Chandler Rome posted it this way. So I grabbed it from him. Right elbow surgery. Luis Garcia threw 25 pitches in a side session on Saturday. Christian Javier pitched last Wednesday in Florida, throwing 40 pitches in a side session. He threw another 20-pitch bullpen earlier today. Jordan Alvarez, right-hand fractured. DeCenzo, left-hand capsule strain, stayed back in Houston to concentrate on their rehab. They have not progressed to hitting yet. That's not good. Pedro Leon, left knee sprain, was returned for rehab last Tuesday due to soreness to his left knee. He is currently going through running, hitting, throwing progression. The last one, Chas McCormick, left oblique strain, is in Houston this week, and he has started hitting and a throwing progression. Mike.
Yeah.
That's a laundry list. Now, of those guys that we're looking at coming back, Arrighetti, Garcia, JP France, are any of those injury reports at all promising or going in a better direction?
Listen, they're nobody. It didn't say that no one is not throwing. It didn't say that somebody has had a setback. So if you want to look at the glass half full, that's fine.
Right.
The only one that looks a little intriguing to me, as far as maybe closer than further away, was Christian Javier, because he's actually through 40 pitches, had another 20 pitch bullpen, but none of those look like they're imminent, right around the corner to ready to come back. And then of course Lance McCullers Jr. Went on the IL today, so they didn't have time to put him on that list, and we have no time frame on him.
Yeah,
either.
I've been told that he's expected to miss at least 2 starts, but that makes sense if it's a
15-day IL. So he's, it is retroactive, but even if they're on a 6-day rotation, that's still 12 days. So yeah, I would think he's going to miss that much time. And listen, if he can get his legs back under him, 2 weeks is not long enough that he's going to need a long rehab assignment or anything like that. That could be a situation that he just throws some live BP, make sure his ankle's okay, cover first base a few times, and hey, okay, let's go get him. So
let's get it back.
We'll keep our fingers crossed with that it's not something longer for Lance, but the rest of these guys, it doesn't look like anyone's really imminent on coming back to help this team.
Yeah, exactly. And so did I see Jacob? I don't think I saw Jacob Melton on there.
No,
Jacob Melton is supposed to be out for, I've heard, about 4 weeks with a pretty severe ankle sprain. So he had hit a triple. It was cool to see Melton and Cam Smith in the same lineup back to back, them both doing something in a game. These are guys that you look like Jeremy Pena. If he gets signed, long term, he kind of takes the torch of leader where you got the young outfielders coming up, stuff like that. That's just kind of shades of the future. And you want to see these guys come back well. Now,
right.
All-Star voting, Mike. Look, I'll give you my take on All-Star voting, and I'll see what yours is, because I think mine's probably closer to yours than it is to, I think, a lot of fans out there. I think All-Star voting is a popularity contest. It's not really a true measure.
Well, especially when you talk about starters.
Exact starters, and
they have
times a day, and
they have increased the roster size. So
yes,
listen, there's always snubs. Always. They could have 50-man rosters on the American League and National League All-Star team, and there would still be snubs. Okay, so
and I think the guys that get snubbed the most are the relief pitchers.
Sometimes relief pitchers, young players that haven't really made their name for themselves, but are having great first halves. A lot of times it is popularity, but what do the Astros have going for them? Well, the first is they're a first place team. Okay? Yeah, they haven't necessarily played great, especially their offense, but they're a first place team. The other is, to tell you the truth, it's all the success they've had over the years. They played well last year. We know for the last decade, this has been, the best team in baseball. So, that all bodes well, just because it gives you the notoriety to the players, that when you see somebody fills out an all-star ballot, from Milwaukee, they may pick an Astro just because the Astros have been good. And so if he's on the list, he must be able to play the baseball game.
Right. So here is an updated list of, this is the first tally. Okay. There's probably some Astros that are maybe improperly high, and maybe one that I'm surprised is in the position he is, but I found out the teams are the ones that decide. Look at second base. I don't know if you can see that. Jose Altuve is third. He's only played 17 games at second base.
Yeah. He's
third. A lot of Houston Astros fans are going to vote for him. I'm not saying don't vote for Altuve, but after that home run today, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, go ahead and put him on. But second base has been kind of weak this year in the American League overall. But you got Jeremy Pena third for shortstops. I think he's having a better year than Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt Jr.'s clearly the more popular player, 200,000, almost over that. Then you have Yordan Alvarez fourth. Mike, he should not be fourth. He's not playing. He wasn't having a good year before, probably because
that's the whole idea of it being a popularity contest,
right?
And then you have guys that will make the team that they know they shouldn't be there. They're still an all-star, but they'll bow out where I'm not going to play. That lets somebody else come in. So, we'll see how many Astros will actually make it. Offensively, Paredes has been good this first half. Who am I missing? Jeremy Pena. Jeremy Pena has been
to good. To me, Pena. I mean, if Wilson wasn't having the year he was having, now hold on. How was Wilson in first place, but the Sacramento A's, Mike, aren't even filling a AAA stadium? Well, because
all the voting now is done online.
Yeah,
it's not done. It's not done in the stadium. It used to be done in the stadium.
I remember the cards. I'm looking for. I don't even have paper in my house anymore. No, like I remember the little skinny ballots.
That says a lot. Being a teacher.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, it was almost like Scantron for baseball nerds. Right. And you would sit there and you would look. Okay. And man, sometimes you would hit the wrong one and you couldn't use that ballot because you couldn't vote wrong. And like our goal would be, we would get like real tiny straws, real thin, like coffee straws. Yeah. And we would get like 15, 20 of them, punch those. I mean, we would stuff that ballot box.
Right.
So we got more than 5 votes back then.
So the pitching is where, the Astros have shined.
Right.
Hunter Brown. Absolutely. Tell you the truth, I think there's a chance that Hunter could possibly start the All-Star game. If not, he's going to be one of in the first couple innings, which means he's one of the top pitchers in the league. Josh Hader, absolutely. He's been outstanding. Hasn't blown a save yet, knock on wood. Brian Abreu has been very, very good as a non-closer. So, the Astros have had, that's really, Framber Valdez. He definitely needs to be in the conversation. So the Astros have now. The problem is everybody can't make it.
Right. Exactly.
So, you kind of have to just take it all with a grain of salt. And I was blessed and honored enough to make one in my career, and that was in 2001. We played in Seattle. And I made it as a non-closer. I think I was the first left-handed non-closer to make it. Don't
really?
But I think so.
Wow. See, you keep throwing this stuff at me. I'm like, I didn't know that. That's actually pretty impressive, Mike, to be honest with you. I think for me, for the Astros, Jeremy Pena
bodes well for me if you're easily impressed.
Well, no, dude. Hey, I'm telling you right now, look, if you threw a pitch in the major leagues, but seriously, when I look at your career, how long it was, and just hearing the different teams you were a part of, the Yankees teams, the Braves, you were a part of organizations that were historic, and you really had opportunities that not a lot of people get.
Oh no. Blessed way more than I ever deserved. That's for sure.
That's awesome. So I'm sitting here looking at the 2001 All-Star Game roster, and you were there with the likes of Cal Ripken Jr., Ichiro.
That was his last one, and Cal Ripken Jr. went deep.
Yes.
If you remember, the starting shortstop was
it A-Rod?
Was A-Rod. Yeah. A-Rod and Cal was playing third base at the time. A-Rod let him start at short.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
And then Cal, in Cal Ripken Jr. fashion, flair for the dramatic, he goes deep.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And I mean, look at that. Mike Stanton with Andy Pettit, Sasaki, Rivera.
We had a lot of
Freddie Garcia, Percival. Percival was strong that year, wasn't he?
He was filthy.
So, and then on the AL side, Derek Jeter, Roberto Alomar. You had Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams.
I think we had 8. The New York Yankees, I think we had 8 on that team.
Wow. Oh, I'm sorry. That was AL side. I said National League side. National League side, I didn't go down far enough. Randy Johnson, Piazza, Helton, Kent, Jones, Bonds, Sosa. I mean, wow. That's really cool. Albert Pujols, a young Albert Pujols at third base.
Vladdy Sr.
Yeah. Wow. Lance Berkman and Moises Alou, Billy Wagner were the 3 Astros.
Do you remember seeing the video clip of Tommy Lasorda getting hit with a bat at third base?
Yes.
Okay. That came out of that All-Star game.
And that
I threw the pitch.
You threw the pitch. Yes.
I threw the pitch to Vladdy to Vladdy.
Yeah.
And he hit it off the end of the bat, blew up his bat, and it went down and hit Tommy. I'm so glad that Tommy didn't get hurt. But flew all the way down the third base line and hit Tommy right across the chest.
So, but as a pitcher, like, did you feel bad because it was Lasorda? Because
really, because I was a little pissed because it sounded like somebody was standing. Now remember, I never went out of the windup.
Right.
So third base is behind me, and it sounded like somebody was standing right behind me, screaming in Spanish, screaming. Of course, I don't speak Spanish. I don't know what he's saying, which is probably a good thing. And I look over my shoulder and I see it's Tommy. And, Tommy and I went, I played against Tommy. He was with the early 90 Dodgers and
wow.
the run-ins we had, as the Braves with the Dodgers and everything. So, the history with Tommy went way back. And I kind of take a split second to look at him. I'm like, dude, shut up. And it was like a pitch or two later, Vladdy hits the ball, the bat goes flying down, and it hits Tommy. And the thing is, Tommy was old. He was pretty big at the time. He had no business being out there because he couldn't get out of the way. He kind of just stumbled backwards a couple steps, and that bat squares him right across the chest. But luckily, he kind of just rolled like a weeble wobble,
wow.
and he came back up and was able to stand up, and he was fine. But I was kind of a little ticked off at him because he's screaming in Spanish. I have no idea what he's saying, and I'm just like, dude, zip it.
Wow. I mean, what a year. What a year that was for baseball.
That was incredible.
Man. All right. So let's wrap this up. Look at that. Learn new stuff about Mike every episode. Hey, I do too.
Dude got a lot of stories.
Mike,
yeah.
He reveals more.
If nothing else, I might be completely full of it, but I got a lot of stories.
Oh no. Hey, and I'll just put my hands behind. I'll just get my popcorn and just listen.
There you go.
Like a movie. So do the Astros, like, if they had to prioritize a bat or an arm, as far as let's say they can get a 3 or a 4 type pitcher, or even, I don't care, a 3 through 5 guy. Would you rather them get an arm or a left-handed bat? And what, tell me.
All right. So this isn't a simple answer.
Right.
Okay. The simple answer would be yes, both. Okay. The problem with getting a bat, where is he going to play?
Yeah.
Whether we were talking about O'Hearn from the Orioles. Would you like to have the stick? He's having a great season. He's a outfielder / first baseman / DH. Where is he going to play any of those? And there lies the problem. The other side of this is, if you're going to go out there and try and get, an impact bat, it's going to cost you. And where are those players going to come from? They're going to come from your big league roster. You're going to subtract from your big league roster to bring someone in for your big league roster, because the Astros just simply don't have the top prospects in the minor leagues.
That's true.
To warrant, one of those top bats. And they're going to be coveted because the offense across Major League Baseball is down. So a guy like O'Hearn, who's having a really good season, he is going to be coveted. So that means he's going to be expensive. So how have they won here in this first half so far? Pretty simple.
Pitching.
They pitched. There's two ways of winning. You outscore the other team, or it's run prevention. And they have pitched very, very well, even with the injuries that they've had. I think they have a better chance of bringing in a middle to a back of a rotation starter. It's not going to be as expensive. And if you can find somebody that is, at the end of a contract that is only going to be, the couple month rental, again, won't be so expensive. I think they have a better chance of doing it. And you can listen, you could have a bullpen full of Hall of Famers. You could always use another arm. So that's something that's actually written in ink, a reliever, but I think they have a better chance of bringing in a starting pitcher, and hopefully they can continue this pretty special run that they've been on of not just walk-off wins, but winning very tight baseball games.
See, and I don't know if Sandy Alcantara would be the guy, okay, because he's more of a front end guy when he's on top of his game, but he's been having a really down year.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Sandy is Sandy's still got plus stuff.
He does.
And we know that we talked about the Tampa Bay Rays and Forrest Whitley, what they have done. The Astros have been known for this stuff too.
Exactly.
That if they can get the deal, if they can get the right type of deal, that might be the very kind of lightning in a bottle situation that you're looking for. That if you can get that dude right and you put him in the mix with Hunter and Fromber, oh my gosh! Now you're talking about getting into a, either a 5 game, or you've got the rotation to run the gauntlet.
Well, see, and I've heard people talk about as far as like who the Astros would go after and things like that. That with getting Yordan Alvarez back, that's basically like a transaction, like a trade deadline, but also that McCormick is being called, or the Astros are being called and talked to and asked about Chas McCormick. He's not had a ton of opportunities, but he's not having a terrible year at the plate, and he does have the history. He has played
well. Last year he swung the bat. There was a month and a half or 2 months last year that he was arguably the best offensive outfielder in the American League. Believe it or not. I mean, he was that good for a while. So yeah, you see that upside. The thing is, are you going to be able to get an impact? Well, listen, you don't usually trade a bat for a bat. It's usually a bat for a pitcher or a pitcher for a bat. So, who are you going to trade? That would be one of those situations that you're probably going to bring in an arm. And as much as, I think Astros fans like Chas McCormick, there's going to have to be something else. There's going to have to be, he's not going to pull off what you need, just a one-on-one swap.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is going to be, there are going to be, some major league pieces, and I know there have been discussions I've heard about Bryce Matthews. I know that they've talked about him. The book on him right now is, while he's hitting really good on the road, which in the PCL is a really
hitter friendly.
There you go. Very hitter friendly. I didn't want to say easy, but hitter friendly. His splits at home aren't as good. So it does tend to be a little skewed in the minor leagues in the Pacific Coast League because of all the high altitude stuff, which makes you wonder, why would they put ballparks in those cities anyway? That's a whole nother discussion. But Mike, I love the discussion we're having here. The Astros are currently landlocked 1-1. JJ Bleday tied it up with the solo shot. The Astros 7 hits and only 1 run so far, but there is hope if they go to the 10th inning. They are actually 5-0 this year in extra innings. So that's
which is crazy. That's that special it factor that the Astros really haven't had since you started these BS rules of putting a guy on second base. The Astros have been horrible in extra innings since they put that. And this year it's been different. This team has played well. They've pitched well. They've been able to do a lot of different things in extra innings that they just simply have. To tell you the truth, it almost seems like in previous years that they took a step backwards. They play great in regulation. Then you get in the extra innings, and it looked like a completely different
it
team.
was like 23, 24. It was like they go to extra innings, like you can just go to bed because
they're going to lose.
Yeah. But and I hate the fact that they call it the ghost runner, because I'm sorry, the ghost runner, you never know where he is, because every time you tag out the ghost runner, he's already gone home.
I had somebody call it one time, and I can't remember who it was, but it's actually a zombie runner, because he was already dead. He was out last week. Last thing. He's a zombie. He's the zombie runner.
Zombie runner. Okay. I like that. Oh man, these rules. But hey, it looks like they're really pushing. We will have the ABS system next year, according to Rob Manfred.
We've been doing this for too long. We'll hold my rant about Rob Manfred later.
I can't wait. That's going to be awesome. Oh, man. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much, Mike. I love it as always. And you never cease to amaze me. Susan loves the zombie runner too. Mike's not taking credit for it, but you know what? You can say
mine. I just got to remember where I got it from. But you know what? I slept a little last night, so I'm not going to remember.
I hear you. It's all good. Well, Mike, thank you so much, man. Thanks for the stories. Seriously. It kind of takes us back a little bit as well, down memory lane. So look, man, we'll come back here in a few days, check up on the Astros and how they're doing in Sacramento. And we'll go from there. But, going forward, the Astros just got to get healthy, hit a little bit harder, and just keep rolling on the mound, right?
That's it. It doesn't matter how you do it. Just keep getting wins.
Y'all have a good one. As always, go Stros.
Adios.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, and I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat low in the way you can't hit it. You know you wanna start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walk it back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put